Hi there. My name's John Neese. I own a recording studio called Austin Signal here in the Hill Country just west of downtown Austin, Texas. 7 years ago, I made a trip to Germany to buy my first vinyl record cutting lathe called a vinyl recorder from a man named Suri. Today I own 3 of those vinyl recorders, and over the years I've cut literally thousands of sides on 2 and even sometimes 3 of those lathes running simultaneously in parallel. I've cut 5-inch discs, 7-inch discs, 8-inch discs, 10s, 12s, 14, all kinds of stuff. And I cut them really specifically in very short runs for clients, anywhere from 1 copy to upwards of 50. But now I'm using one of the lathes to cut master lacquer discs, which are eventually plated and then go off to a pressing facility to have records pressed. I've been doing this for, 6 months now. And I've done a number of projects for people. I don't do, again, we can do any number that you'd like as long as the minimum quantity is 25, which is pretty small for vinyl records. I don't know too many people that are doing that, if any. But that's what I'm doing now. So I'm going to make another video today, and I'm going to actually talk about cutting lacquers with the vinyl recorder. Some technical housekeeping. I cut, so you'll see here, I cut the master on a 14-inch MDC lacquer with this heavily modified vinyl recorder. It's the stock cutter head that came with the vinyl recorder. It's not what's called a feedback cutter head, and you can make your own judgment if you're a lathe cutter out there or someone that is in this business, what you think of the quality of the product when you hear it. Immediately after I cut it, I played it on a Technics SP15 turntable, which you can see here. It's outfitted with a nice Gelco arm. It's got a Shure M97XC cartridge on it with the original stylus. It goes through a Hafler PH50B preamp without the low-cut filter engaged. And then I recorded it and ripped it onto digital using the Antelope Orion converters that I have here in the studio. I thought a long time about what program material to use to do that. So I decided that I'd try to find something a little more modern. And what I came up with is this record, which you can see here. It's called the Ascension by Sufjan Stevens. It's just a magnificent, just a magnificent piece of music. It's very well recorded. It's got an extraordinary kind of, I think it's extraordinarily moving musically. And there's a lot going on sonically, way, way more than sort of your classic rock or jazz record or what have you. So I decided to use it, and I just decided to take the first side. It's a 2-record set. It's long. It's a 2-record set, and I decided to just essentially cut the first side of it. There's a fair amount of pretty interesting material that's quite long. It's, going on 22 minutes long, I think. But I bought a 24-bit file from QOBuzz and downloaded it, and that's my source. And so as you can see here, I've got a copy of Reaper up, which is what I use because of its incredible routing capabilities. It was really useful when I was driving 3 cutting lathes. And I've got a session up here with essentially just got a couple of tracks. The top track that you see in the pink is the original digital version, and I've cut it into chunks here. And then the blue is the SP15 playing back the cut that I did on the lacquer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you some of these sections and give you an idea of some things to listen to and listen for. And I'll actually go into a little bit of detail and solo some things so you can hear specific little nuances that you might not even normally think about. Okay, so here I have a copy of Reaper with 2 tracks in it. The top track is the digital source. The bottom track is the ripped copy of the lacquer that's recorded. I'll be playing the digital copy first in all cases, and the lacquer copy second. I'm going to play you just a section here, so if you're listening on headphones or a good listening environment, you can kind of get set up for the levels and know what you're going to hear. I'm going to let you hear both of them. You'll see the playhead moving across first the red one and then the blue one.
Like the waters I cannot drink, I have lost my patience. Make me an offer I cannot refuse. Like the waters I cannot drink, I have lost my patience. Make me an offer I cannot refuse.
Okay, that'll give you an idea of what we're doing here. They sound very similar. It's a long sort of section, so it's hard to make a real accurate kind of assessment, but that's pretty darn close. So there's a little technical term, a couple things that I want to introduce here for those that aren't familiar with the parlance of audio recording. There's this thing called mids and sides. If you think of a stereo, you see the picture of my speakers in front of you here. If you think of a stereo field that has the stuff in the middle and the stuff on the left and the stuff on the right. Stuff in the middle might be vocals, might be bass, might be a snare drum, those kinds of things. And then there's all kinds of things that can be panned left or right, or even places, halfway in between. It's a concept that is a little different, but it's important because the cutter head on a vinyl cutting lathe actually moves sort of in two directions at the same time. It moves laterally. It makes grooves that go back and forth laterally, horizontally across the record, and then also it moves vertically up and down. The stuff that's moving the laterally are the things in the mids, the things that come right down the middle at you, and the stuff in the sides are the things that move up and down. So it's interesting when you're going to go cut some audio onto a record, you kind of want to know what you've got in front of you in terms of what's in the mids and what's in the sides. And in a minute, I'll tell you exactly why that is. But I just want to play this in a loop for you. It's a short little section. And we're going to just listen to it, and I'm going to actually bring up an equalizer and let you listen to just the mids and just the sides. And so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. So this is just mid-side, and I'm going to solo the mid. So this is just the things that are down the middle. So essentially that's a mono thing going on there. So now let's try it with the sides soloed. So it sounds like it's coming down the middle, but that's just because we're soloing it. But those are the things that actually live on the left or the right side of the track. So I'm going to play it in a loop here again, and I'm going to actually let you listen to the sides, but listen to different particular frequencies. We're going to solo different particular frequencies so you can see a little more detail, kind of just keep on zooming into what the audio is. Okay, I was going to loop it, but it doesn't. I think you got enough of that. It's not particularly exciting, but it's kind of illuminating if you're listening for it. Another thing I like to kind of listen for is kind of what's happening in the top end, particularly like in this case, some vocals. There's some vocal presence in this section here that's really nice, kind of this sort of airy thing that's happening with his vocals, and we're going to listen to that normally. We can take this out of here. And let's just take a listen. I'm going to let you listen to both, and then I'm going to actually put it in a loop with just a specific little chunk of it for you to listen to. And there's that sort of little, the part that I'm talking about, and now I'm going to actually run this in a loop, and you can kind of compare them. Whoops, sorry. That's pretty good. They're characteristically very the same. There's the same little piano little thing that's happening is in exactly the same space in the stereo field on the right side there. It's tracking pretty accurately. Now let's actually, we're going to listen to the sides here specifically, and the low end. And the reason for that is that the low end is particularly important to pay attention to when you're cutting a vinyl record. As I mentioned earlier, the stylus, the cutting stylus moves vertically for things in the side, for music that's apparent in the side. And if there's a lot of low end, a lot of bass information, or a lot of sudden information, particularly sudden low end information, that stylus that's going up and down to track that can actually move too far, traverse too far, and actually come off the surface of the record, which leaves a sort of a blank there. There's no groove, and will cause the playback stylus on your record player to not play it properly. So it's important that we kind of pay attention to the low end, and sometimes if you're cutting a vinyl master, you'll roll that low end out of the side so it doesn't make the record track like I mentioned earlier, or you push it towards the middle. That'll have the same effect. Or you can just sometimes you can get away with just turning the cut down, and that's what I actually did here. I tried cutting it at the same level as the commercial vinyl recording, which was it sort of rides at 0 and peaks at +3. When I did that and left all this low end completely intact and wide the way it exists here, it kind of it went right out the surface of the record. So I lowered my cutting level to rides along at -3 and peaks at 0. It's just a notch quieter, and I was able to get away with it. But anyway, let's take a listen here. Yeah, I'm going to get my EQ out again, and we're going to go to the sides. Okay, this is actually, let's listen in stereo first.
The radical dream, there's no time for the radical dream, there's no time.
So that's what it sounds like. Now let's go to the sides. Let's listen to just the sides. Okay, so you get the idea. The idea here is that I left the low end pretty much intact there. And again, what I had to do is cut it just a hair quieter to make that happen. I will say that depending on what kind of speakers you're listening to, it would make absolutely no difference. I have on my Focal speakers here, I've got 2 subwoofers underneath the desk. And I can hear that, I can feel it. I love the way it sounds. So I'd rather cut the whole record a little louder so I can pick all of that up. But if you're listening on bookshelf speakers, like the ones on top in the picture here, or the ones on the little Oratones, you never hear it at all. It doesn't make any difference. So let's hear it in stereo one more time.
The radical dream. There's no time for the radical dream. There's no time.
Pretty cool. It's wonderful. I just love the recording. Okay, so this is just a little thing for you to listen to that's sort of a testament to the quality of the quietness of the cut. When I say quietness, the self noise or the amount of noise the cut makes when there's nothing, there's no music. So this is just a fade, a big drop, and then a fade down to silence, both digitally and with the vinyl. Okay, so if you kind of cranked up your volume to kind of listen to that really super quiet part where it fades out and becomes silent, you would have probably heard a little turntable rumble. That's the turntable. That's not the cut. It's a playback turntable. So what do we have here? Okay, so this is just, I think, a beautiful kind of stereo piece here. There's some lush reverbs. If you listen to kind of the first phrase where the reverb, kind of the tail of the reverb is, and remember that if you can when you're listening to the second piece. I'm just kind of playing a section of it in digital and then playing the same thing and letting it play out a little bit just to enjoy it on the vinyl one.
No illusions. Let the dead revive the beast within, and I say love. No illusions. Let the dead revive the beast within, and I say love. Come run away with me, sweet falling remedy. Come run away with me, and I say love. Come run away with me, sweet falling fantasy. Come run away with me, and I say love, and I will bring you light.
Okay, pretty, beautiful. I just love the recording. So here we've got lots of stereo stuff going on across the whole, all the frequency ranges. We're starting to lose. There's this thing called diameter loss. So the further you go towards the center of the record, the more of the top end it just disappears. There's nothing that you can really do about it. It's just a part of a vinyl record. I love vinyl records, obviously. I'd spend a whole bunch of time fooling around with them, but anybody that tells you that they just sound better than a good digital master has not heard the inner groove, or has not paid any attention to what happens in the inner grooves here. So anyway, you'll hear some stuff happening. Kind of you'll pay attention to the stereo stuff, and then kind of listen for the top end, some of the little hi-hats and things like that. And then you'll just hear it sort of disappearing or not quite as loud in the vinyl cut. I am going to let it play out. Your mind adjusts to it as it happens, and it still is a beautiful thing to listen to. So I'm going to do that. I think we're like almost 15 minutes into the record at this point.
Is this a reason why you walk back to the door?
So when I said I wanted a modern recording versus sort of a classic rock thing, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there's just all these samples, all this stuff. I lament many times about, I like to hear music that's done by musicians in a room with instruments in a room. And actually, we're going to be doing quite a bit of live to lacquer recording here in the studio. That's what we'll be doing. But this is also just, I think, just magnificent, and just I think it's beautiful. Okay, so this is the end of the record. So this is like 21 minutes into it. We're way down deep into the inner grooves, and so you lose a lot of the top here. It's a big sort of crescendo, kind of a finale piece, really big and heavy and cool. I just thought I'd just play the digital version first and then jump in with the analog version right where it kind of leaves off. You'll hear the drop immediately from the high end. All the treble stuff will be just kind of almost gone. But again, your mind kind of adjusts to it. If you're listening to a record sitting in your living room or whatever, your mind, you're not even thinking about that. You're just thinking about the program material, what it means and how it feels. And I think your brain in this case too will sort of jump into the music and kind of not even think about the diameter loss on the high end.
Breathing in the blight. What's the point of it if morning turns into night? Can we bury this love? It's now or never. I'm gonna love
Okay, so that's it. That's the last song on the record. That's the end of that side of the record. That little wind down, that gauzy thing that sort of goes back and forth in the stereo field, left to right, is that sort of distorted effect on it is not inner groove distortion. That is the way the track sounds. What we really just lost there is just a lot of the top end. Anyway, I hope this whole thing was worth it to somebody. It's been fun to do. The record's like I said, I'm just a huge fan of the record. Maybe the best thing about it, it's a double vinyl set, so there's 3 more sides to this record, which are equally as good. I hope that you enjoy it, and if you ever need some vinyl cut, short run or otherwise, give me a call. Thank you.